Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And you know, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. All right, everybody, welcome to the show, Blue Collar Mystics. Here we go. We are taking a deep dive into the toolbox of human consciousness. And I have one of my favorite co-hosts tonight, somebody I think many of you will be familiar with, and somebody who is I'm excited to be collaborating with, too. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've got coming up so far, but my good friend James Thomas, also known as the Admiral Hitzz, welcome once again.
Thanks, Owen. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man. We tend to stay in touch pretty regularly, but it's been a minute since we've caught up. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to hang out with you and chat a little bit. We got to catch up a little bit today, and we're both headed to I guess a spiritual retreat.
It's called the Awakening Expo.
The Awakening Expo. Okay, so it's a little bit less a retreat and more of an exposition.
Yeah, it's like people are bringing their different modalities and wares out. I think they got some keynote speakers and things, regarding the ideas around awakening. I haven't actually had, other than my contact with the hosts, I haven't really got a chance to dive too deep in to everything that they're doing over there, because I've been just planning away. They're like on a list of 10 other things that I've been juggling the administrative duties on. But yeah, I mean, it seems like they've got they're working within their community in Southern Ohio and really branching out and trying to make a venue for people that are all doing stuff like we're doing, and I'm happy to go take part in it, see what's going on.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked. Yeah, our friend Chancey came in, spoke to me about it, and was telling me about it. And I looked at it, I was like, it's not even that far. It's really cool. I met her at the Grimerica retreat out in Shasta, and that was, I guess, more of a retreat. And this is more of a kind of like a festival-ish kind of thing, expo. There's lots of different vendors outdoors, and so we're going to be able to hang out and tell people what you've been working on. And I think a lot of people are familiar potentially with the spaceship and all of that, but tell us about the new edition, the new version, the new tweaks, the Mantrayana.
Essentially the Mantrayana is the sonic portal, but there are a couple of little minor things we've been doing for, I don't, necessarily what you would call, the seeker community or the meditation market, whatever. But, what it all boils down to it is the Mantrayana is the sonic portal, but it's just rebranded to be a little bit more digestible to people that aren't hanging out in playtime. Originally the sonic portal was a vibrational massage, is what we call it.
I love that.
But we were in a healing area of these events, and it's 50,000 people there. They have a healing area, and 200 people show up, and then 10% of that 200 people would do it. And I knew what we had. I knew what we were doing, and it was frustrating that we would put all this time and energy in planning to gong 20 people in a weekend, and so a little bit of frustration, maybe a little bit of ego and creativity. I threw some lights up and called it a psychedelic spaceship and put it in the loud portion of the festival. You know, a lot of, you know, people were always considerate. You know, the early days of vending coordinators, like, oh, you know, we want you in a quiet place so that way you're not disturbed and people can appreciate it. But I mean, we developed a system that allowed us to operate in those loud areas, and you know, we put lights on it, called a psychedelic spaceship, wore a bunch of costumes, and tricked people into experiencing their first sound bath. And you know, that was great for that situation where people are in high recreation, high party mode. But you know, there's some seriousness behind it. There's a lot of healing that takes place in those sessions, and you know, outside of the music festival, somebody that might need what we're doing or could try, you know, it's like there's so many modalities. I don't want to pretend that my modality is the only one. There's so many roads to get to where you want to go, and it's just one. But you know, if we're trying to offer that to the outside world, outside of trippy fun time, it needed to be something else. You know, somebody's going through some trauma or you know, some physical pain, and they're on the fence about trying something new. You know, hey, hop on my psychedelic spaceship doesn't seal the deal. So you know, the Mantrayana came as a new expression to share the same system, but you know, it's easier. You know, the Mantrayana is a Sanskrit word for mantra meaning sound, and yana meaning vehicle or vessel or voyage, and you know, so it's still got the spaceship vehicle roots, but it's just more rooted into a spiritual tone. And you know, sound, especially back then too, sound healing was still on the climb. Social media hadn't got a hold of it yet, and so no one really knew what the hell we were doing, and so we were just building that brand. But you know, it's funny. I just did a yoga studio here in town. No mention of a spaceship whatsoever. You know, just went right in. You know, with the sage and the breathing exercises, and you know, really just working on people's comfort. And about half of the 20 or so people that took place were like, "That's a spaceship." It's like nothing. Well, thank you. That's definitely what it is to me, and I'm glad that you see that. And you know, it's like one woman who is helping with the you know, just with providing space so we could do it. She had an autistic child, and she brought her autistic child in. They rode together, and he came out. He was like, "Yo, I just went to a distant galaxy." He immediately was like, "I don't know what you just did to me, but I was on the other side of the universe." And I was like, "All right, cool." It was like, you know, the message is still there, and you know, the system ain't going to change of how we deliver it. So it's really, you know, it's comforting to hear people still speak about it, how I see it and view it. And but you know, it's like I'd much rather somebody be catered to and be given an idea that's easier that they can pull a handle and hold on to than, you know, try to wrap their head around something that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we call this goddamn thing. It's going to do what it's going to do. And you know, whatever, you know, whatever is easier to get them in there. Back in 10, 15 years ago, 100%. It was lights and psychedelics and spaceships, and now it's, you know, spiritualism and healing. But ultimately, you know, it's like, and to the misconception, you know, I'm not the healer. I'm not healing anybody. They're healing themselves. They're put in an environment of resonance, and their physiology and spirit or soul and mind are all melding together and giving them the output that they need. You know, that ain't even conscious. So, you know, it's like I'm just kind of there, guiding the whole thing. But you know, they're healing themselves, and whatever we could do to get them in there to you know, start that conversation and start that experience, you know, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I think that's an avid take. That's really what it's about, you know, especially when you believe in something and you see something that has results and has an impact. Well, it's easier to believe in it. It's easier to talk to people about it, let them know, just get them in there, just find a way to get them in there. That's the fun part. And so talk a little bit about some of the other places that you're going to be pimping this vehicle.
So, we're just keeping it light again. I'd like to play where I'm wanted, and so we have a few festivals that are major brands, and we have been in the same spot for a decade, and people are already looking. Right now I get emails, hey, how where are you going to be? How can I integrate you into my weekend, kind of thing, and so we're sticking with our 5 or 6 regular festivals like Electric Forest, and Sonic Bloom, and Summer Camp. Electric Forest is in Michigan. Sonic Blooms in Rye, Colorado. That's usually the solstice weekend, summer solstice. They're going to be doing Soul Fest with you down in Alabama on Cinco de Mayo, and yeah, we're actually doing Backwoods on 420, which is an amazing venue in Ozark, Arkansas. Um, and yeah, so it's like I really do love returning to the same venues. There's an amount of familiarity there, and people. We've built a, I don't know if legend is the correct word, but folklore maybe. People out in camping talking about. I actually just discovered a feed about us and an Electric Forest chat group or something, and I was looking at all the comments. I was like, yeah, it's exactly the way that they're talking about it is the way that I feel that they should be. It's like
That's cool.
it feels it's rewarding to see, you know, be in it this long and still see that the old people are bringing the new people in, and that our work is still extremely valued. We're going to be doing the Awaken Air Expo this weekend, and that's in Piketon, Ohio, at the Pike County Fairgrounds. And
yeah, dude, take me to the fairgrounds, dude. Right? Come on.
We're actually doing a woman's. It's like they call it Spoon Moon Body Alchemy. It's like a woman's fitness center in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Cool.
So we're gonna do that the next weekend after this next event. So we're gonna do the Awakening Expo into Backwoods into this Spoon Moon into Sawfest, and that's the first leg this year.
Damn, that's a pretty hefty leg, man. That's a hog leg right there.
Yeah, I've been busy for the next month, and then you get 2 weeks off, and then it's summer camp on Memorial Day weekend, and then another 2 weeks off, and then it's Sonic Plume and Electric Forest back to back.
Wow.
And I've been getting a couple like private event inquiries and things, but I'm also trying to leave some space open. There's there's at least 10 other events I know I'd be welcome to with open arms, but staffing it. And I mean, these festivals are a lot of work emotionally and physically. If you're just there as a fan to try to work and navigate it and travel and go from each one, it gets really tiring. So I really just decided to kind of do a couple quick spurts, and then July 1st, that's like Forest ends on the 27th to 28th, and then July 1st, I'm just going to kind of spend the next 2 months working on screenplays and stuff like that, and then kind of go back into it in the fall when the weather starts to relax a little bit from that July, August, and just trying to keep on sharing it, keep our visibility out there.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. You're doing it. That's a big first leg, and that's really cool. I like how you're mixing it up, and I think that's smart. Keep some space open, see what you can book between and other places that may be useful, especially in that summertime, like being out in the field. It's so hot in the middle of the day. Come rafting with me, dude, during the
Well, it's like after we do Saltfest, I have 2 weeks off. So I mean, I was probably leaving for your house after Alabama anyway.
Right. Yeah, man, come get a shower,
Yeah, no, I mean, I could definitely see myself doing some whitewater rafting after that leg. Yeah, the point was to like leave some room for other experiences. Because I mean, as much as I do love doing the work and sharing it with people and helping people, and find whatever it is they didn't know they were looking for, because that's really what a lot of it is people have epiphanies and understand. And like for me too, is I don't know what compelled me to do it for all that time, other than maybe a little rock star ego. But until the pandemic, that thing, I healed myself inside of that thing. And for the first time in the 10, 12 years I was doing it, I actually understood exactly what it was I was doing. And so now I got a context for it, and I definitely want to share it as much as I can. It's demanding. It's very demanding. um, and most sound healing operations aren't a two-person thing either. So it's like, we're not just doing an hour concert. We're open 12 to 16 hours a day, and dealing with lots and of ongoing nonstop patron activity. So definitely it can be taxing. I'm not the young man that started it anymore.
Oh, but man, I've seen you in action, and you're freaking amazing. Like, it just nonstop and just going after it. And it's so cool how the other people work with you too. They do a great job. I can just hear somebody's story. They're like, I was just walking around, man, and then I saw some cute girl in a bikini, and all of a sudden I was talking to my dead grandma, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. This dude was telling me to hang on.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just reading these comments too, and you know, it really it's a blessing to have something that affects people so well. It's like, um, in part of the earlier part of my life before I turned 30, it's like, hey, where the fuck do I fit in? What the fuck am I going to be doing? What's worth my time? What's worth my effort? Stuck in this crazy dumpster fire culture that we live in, and and when I discovered it. Um, it was one of the first true things where I was like, how can how can I do something else? Like, this is so rewarding and is so helpful to so many people. It was tough to like find the next activity. How can it be as fulfilling as this activity is? And that's the struggle with any art, is finding a level of sustainability, um, and to be able to stay active. So we're blessed to be able to have found a niche that allows it to at least operate and showcase it. But yeah, man, I'm getting stoked. I've just done a couple local shows around here, um, but it's not the same thing as setting it up and playing for a couple hours and tearing it all down. It's like we're an epicenter, um, at an event. It's like the action's always happening. In fact, it's like, it's funny. It's like, uh, teaching what we do, my system. People pick it up so quickly. It's like I'll leave for lunch break and come back to a bunch of miracles. And people just list off all the amazing things that happen. And it's like I leave to grab a bite to eat, and I just expect amazing things to happen. And it's like, and it's like, and it points to these people are all healing themselves in this space, because it doesn't take a tremendous amount of skill from my people. They're just going to follow the system, and they get the same results that I do, or close. And so it's really a cool thing to be part of, and I'm blessed to continue sharing it. And after it healed me and so many of the people that I know and care about, it really has motivated me to try to share it outside of the festival environment, which is a completely different challenge altogether. But
Well, the festival environment is fascinating. I mean, and watching you at work, as dedicated as you are to it, and getting as many people in there and through it, is is amazing to see too. You know, you just be like, I thought you were like eating a sandwich, but you were just still going up to, hey, you want to ride my spaceship? You know, you're like, you're multitasking, you know, getting people and to get the people's attention and to get them, you know, and to explain to them what it is. And to, you know, to go through all this whole entire, it's a living funnel in a way, right?
Yeah.
And then you get them in there, and then whatever happens. Like you said, you know, they're having their own experience, but to see the reactions and how, I mean, I'm doing it myself too, but like to see other people's reactions, like it was pretty confirming and awesome to watch like the whole process. And that's a completely different environment, obviously, than people who are at a studio or somewhere else.
The thing is, the studio is people are coming for a reason. And so, you know,
right.
And that festival situation, they're all recreating, they're all doing their things, they're all, you know, taking psychedelics and smoking weed and doing other things, and they're having fun. Their mind isn't, oh, I got to heal this unrealized parts of my trauma, or, you know, they're not seeking spirituality. They're not looking or trying to meditate. They're not doing any of that. We're ripping them off the street and throwing them into a forced meditation, and whatever their variables are. Generally speaking, you know, we have a lot of success. But in that yoga studio situation, each person is coming in with something specific. You know, whether if it's conscious or unconscious, or verbalized or unverbalized, they have something that's actually brought them to me and at that crossroads. And that expectation is a little bit different. It's a little, you know, it's a little bit different to navigate. And you know, and it's not like I struggle with it, but I also, you know, I don't want anybody looking up to me necessarily and thinking that I'm going to fix them. It's like, you know, it's like all the time. It's like, you are the one that's doing the work, and you know, and I'm there to facilitate the space for you to do that work. And you know, so there can be a certain amount of unearned guru type of, you know, relationships in those situations. And, you know, it's like, I have to always work to stay humble and work to not be the person that they think I should be in their eyes. You know, it's like, I'm just gotta just go in and do the work, you know, and be present. And so, yeah, it just takes a little bit more, and it's actually more exhausting to do that. You know, it's like at a festival, I set it up on, you know, Wednesday, and we tear it down on Sunday or Monday, and, you know, we have a whole bunch of people all working shifts, and we get our breaks and we get our things. But like, I worked, you know, just did this yoga thing, and I was between the setup and the tear down and the four time slots, I was there for almost 8 hours. And, you know, and that was a solo gig for me. So it was like, at the end of that, I was like, damn, I want to go back to festivals.
Well, I was exhausted that last one when we did Soul Fest the first time, and it wasn't even that crazy. So I can't even imagine, you know, because that thing gets going, man. It gets ripping late into the night, you know, and people get more excited and they want to get in there, and the line just keeps filling up and filling up and filling up and filling up. What are you going to do? You know, you don't want to disappoint the people who have been waiting. And so now it's hot. You got to go with it. When you got to strike while the iron's hot and keep that thing rolling. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I'm really blessed. Like, I actually read a book. It was called, what the hell is it called? The E-Myth Revisited. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time. It was like, you know, I have a psychedelic spaceship. What could somebody tell me how to run the thing? And I read this book, and it basically told me all the things I was doing wrong. And I mean, the book was so spot on. It was written in an allegory, and it made me fucking cry. It's a fucking business book, right?
You know, oh, that's good.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh my god, these fucking people actually know what my problem is. And so once I, you know, built a training manual and you know, expectations, and outlined all work expectations and everything, and really put effort in, and I realized that my earlier non-successes had more to do with my leadership than the inability for people to do what I asked them to do. And so, you know, I've really been able to put together a good team of people, core people who really give a fuck about what we're doing. And it's funny. It's like I was checking out this feed for Electric Forest. I found I was like 500 likes and 200 comments. And I'm going through the comments, and I'm realizing that some of the girls who work for me had already been fielding and communicating with all of these people. And hey, this is just something I had no idea even existed, And I got goosebumps thinking about it. I'm like, oh man, these girls are fucking so awesome. Big shout out to Zandria and Shelby for like working off the clock and really believing in and wanting to share what we do. And that's ultimately that's the lifeblood of the labor forces. Everybody's had their experience, and it was so moving that they just want to share it with everybody else that they can. And it's mind-numbingly how it came to be and what it is now and what it's done for everybody that I know and I've come to love. And I feel blessed to be able to continue to still do it.
Yeah, dude.
Trying to work on new cash flow programs to not focus on making it sustainable as much as just making myself sustainable and allowing myself just to do that whenever I feel like doing it and not having an attachment of success behind it. Because ultimately, it's like the more that you try to make something like that work, the more the universe kind of pushes back on you. And so, it's like, that's been my whole winter is figuring out other revenue streams and other ways to, it's like, it sustains itself, but it's not going to bring me to retirement,
Right.
So,
of course.
So, there's got to be a boundary. I just had no boundaries for it in the past, and now that's a lot of the reason why I've booked less shows this year. And it's like just you can't do the same things over and over and over and over and over again. It's like same thing. I skipped Burning Man this year. It's like I've done that 8 times. It's cool. It's still going to be as epic as it was last year, but at the same time, it's like $3,000 I could spend on a new life experience, and
True.
And so it's making more space for just other experiences. It's like it's easy to get lost in any job. Got to work overtime.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you got to pepper those experiences. You got to try new things. Sometimes the same things come back around in their own time, and that's seasonal kind of thing. I found that with being the Sasquatch that I am, that I needed to get back into the woods. Like get back into the river and doing that. Because I had been 10 years without doing it, but I did do different experiences and new things. And I mean, at a certain point, I'm going to have to, make choices. You got to make choices and say no to things. And that's what decisions are. It means like, I think the root's Latin for to cut or like cut away or something like that. Because you have to say no to things in order to say yes to others. So it's one of those things. I said, I'm going to stop this pattern of my life or this time of my life and move on to something else. I wanted to learn to start a business and to be, a little bit more. I wanted to be a tree farmer, and I started a business tree farming, and that went okay. And then it went poorly, and then it went okay, and then it went.
That seems like a very long-term. That seems like a long-term investment.
Well, and I was working on another guy's farm who I was working with too, and it was a lot of work. I mean, it was just a lot of physical work, and I thought, oh, that'll be good. I love being outside, but it was a lot of diesel fuel and a lot of big machines and just a lot. Like we would move huge trees too, and you dig those out with air shovels, literally like jackhammers, a jackhammer shovel. So anyway, I went into that and wanted to become an entrepreneur, and then, wanted to become an entrepreneur, and it's been 10 years of learning entrepreneurship to be able to understand. Even it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like you want to do something like learn comedy or learn whatever, some art form, and then you have to learn how to. It's like, oh, you can paint. Well, do you know how to do marketing? Do you know how to build an email list? Do you know how to build a web page? Do you know how to? And it's like Mitch Hedberg used to have a joke where it was like, oh, you can. And it's like, people say, oh, you can do comedy. Can you act? It's like, if you can write a script, you have to rewrite it. And he's like, no, man, fuck that. I'll just make a copy. He's like, but people always want you to be able to do more things in addition to the thing that you want to do. And I don't know.
It's called paying your dues, right?
It's part of it.
It's a part of our reality, right? Is like, we only see in media the mass success, right? But what you don't see is fucking Michael Jordan working out in the gym 6 hours a day or shooting 1,000 fucking free throws,
right,
putting the work in, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you hear this thing, practice. All right, well, I'm at work while he's practicing, right? And so then you go and see him in a game and he's fucking amazing. What you're seeing is the thousands and thousands of hours of putting the work in and honing the craft that come to this moment of crossroads, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing with acting and filmmaking and writing and I mean all these things. It's like this is in screenwriting in Hollywood, it ain't just about writing movies. It's about being marketable. It's about it's like, if I could be the best screenwriter in the fucking world, right? But if I'm a fucking dick, that talent will go nowhere, because literally when you hand a producer a screenplay, you're saying, I want to work with you for 3 years. Right. And so literally they'll take a shittier screenplay because it's easier to work with this other person than talent. Right. And so you have to like literally do a million things you need to work as an assistant. You got to work your way up. You got to show them that you want to be part of this system, that you don't want to just write yourself a paycheck and take off.
Right.
And so like, and that's the same, that's just called paying your dues, right? It's like, for you have to go do fucking 3 open mics a night, or a week or whatever. And, it's like, and, when you make somebody laugh and you really know you hit it, they're laughing at you in that moment. But what they're getting is your delivery from failing all these other times.
No doubt.
Right? And like, nobody sees that in the moment of the creation. They're bedazzled by, your awesomeness. Right.
Right. You just did a parlor trick, but you didn't, but it's sleight of hand. You don't see, the actual, hours and hours and hours to be able to pull that off. They have a saying, nobody leaves the ladder behind them. Right. Like they get to the top and they just boo, you know what I mean? Because they don't want you to see that. Like if I see my hero and, struggling at an open mic, I'm just going to I'll never see him the same way again. Right. Like that's the illusion. That's the craft. That's what makes it magical or whatever. So, that's why people are so hesitant to put their stuff out too. It makes it easier to be a perfectionist.
Unless you do the work, and unless you fail a bunch of times, unless you look like a fucking moron in front of somebody, then you're just going to be somebody's employee, right? And so, you have to do the work, and there's no getting around it. There's no fucking shortcuts. And then like, again, it's like, somebody comes to see me for 4 minutes and they have this amazing experience that they accredit me when it was really them. And all they see is all this lights and shiny shit, and they feel amazing, and they want to like think it's all me. And it's like, no, it's like, it's a procurement that, I've refined to get you to a point where you could have that experience, but it's not me rock starring it out. But that's the thing is like, it always seems like magic when you watch people who are good at what they do.
Exactly.
And like, it's like, man, it really is amazing. I do that. And that's what really, like that was the allure for sports for me as a kid. And it didn't matter what it was, tennis, baseball, basketball, hockey, watching people who are good at doing what they do, is fucking interesting because
Absolutely.
it's like holy fuck, you know, you're really catching so much accumulated energy that's condensed to this one moment, you know, and yeah, fucking yeah, you know, we could always, no matter how many skills you got though, still need to learn how to market, still got a social media, still got to do all these other things.
It's crazy. I mean, so many of the things that I resisted for so long, if I would have just ponied up earlier and started working on that process, then I would be in a completely different level right now. So for anybody who's listening to that, whatever you're procrastinating, I mean, the resistance is there for a reason, you know, and if we can, as much as we can, we need to be able to get ourselves to do things, even if they're not that much fun.
Well, you mean, you know, there's a certain degree of, you know, our pain and suffering and living through our trauma and all that shit's fucking comfortable and familiar. Even if you're miserable, it's still comfortable and familiar. And these things that we want, that we have to put the work in for, well, you know, some people call it self-sabotage, but really it's just your ego saying, stay comfortable, stay safe. You know, like this is working, right? And so like, why do we want to be uncomfortable in our skin? But, you know, ultimately, you know, just it's, and I still struggle with the, you know, the jumping back and forth between the business sphere and the artist sphere. You know, it's like it's hard for me to be in both, to be honest. I gotta like do all the administration and get to the point where I can do the art.
Yeah, you got to shove your head into the left brain so that you can organize and keep everything. Yeah, I mean, it's like that when I host and produce a comedy show, right? And so, like, I've got all these people. I need to move the chairs, get everybody facing the right direction. I try to welcome people in, you know, get the cameras set up so I can tape everybody's set, make sure all the comics are there. I mean, there's all these little things you got to do, and I thought, oh, comedy, that's easy. You just need a microphone and a stand. Like, that's easy. No big deal. But alas, it is just as much energy as any other show to put on and promote. Certainly as much, if not more, work to promote than a lot of other shows. Because I think music works a little bit differently from my experience. But like, it's like you do all that. You got the tickets. You got to check people's tickets and all this stuff. Shoving yourself more and more into your left brain. And then it's like, all right, showtime, hit the lights. And then you got to snap into your creative side.
Dude.
And it's crazy. It's a crazy thing, but it is something that it's like, I'll be on the phone with friends or talking to people and they'll make a joke. I'll completely miss it. Just because I'm so shoved into my left brain, you know, just doing like whatever, accounting from home, fill it in, any sort of business task that's just, like I said, on that side of the spectrum of thought. And it's so easy to just get stuck in that mode, and to where you're just living in your left brain, like, and then, yeah,
you know, but you know,
I snap to it. You better get after it, and all of a sudden be able to be creative.
So here's the other thing too, is I think in a lot of ways, our culture has showed us the prize, and we have our eyes on this prize all the time. But there's so many things that go into making it to that moment, right? And building things. And ultimately, what it boils down to is if you say, I'm going to be a comedian, or I'm going to be a filmmaker, or I'm going to be, you know, a musician, and you have to accept all of the things. This is where you have to really understand if you really want to do these things, because what you're seeing is the glory. You have to understand that there's all these other things a part of the process. And like, you know, for me, it's like this new thing, setting up the Mantrayana, right? I have to fucking answer ticket sales and answer questions and do all these things. I have to, like, there's nothing to do, you know, it's just money stuff, you know, it's just like, but I made the decision to go that route. And so that's part of the process. Right. And so you have to, you know, learn how to welcome the whole process. You know, it's like, it's not comedy plus marketing. It's fucking comedy, and marketing's part of that. And
yeah,
and you know, and
that's
you know,
a good way to think about it.
And so, you know, it's like we have and this has a lot to do with schooling. every fucking thing is so compartmentalized. What are you? You're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're this, you're that, you're a stockbroker, that's what they are. No, like, you know, if you're if you're an entrepreneur, you're a fucking artist, you are a lot of things, right?
You are.
And so, you know, you probably, when you start writing things down on a piece of paper, you find that you're 100 fucking titles, right? And so, you know, embracing the process is an important part to getting over that procrastination and dealing with the minutia. You know, it's like you know, a lot of people want to be that rock star, right? But they have no idea what it means to live in a hotel room and be on the road fucking, you know, 12 hours a day between gigs and you know, not sleep in their own bed for fucking 6 months. And it's like, do you really want to be a rock star? Because that's what that shit's going to be for the next 10 fucking years.
That's funny.
If you make it, if you think you can make it, right? And so, you know, I would urge people to look past the glory of what they want and really get them to embrace the full picture of what things really fucking entail.
Yeah, no, that's great. Jenny says 90% of being a drummer is moving around and carrying the drums.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to fucking tell me. I got tennis elbow from moving gongs around.
It's so true.
Totally. I'm moving those things more than I'm playing them for sure. That's good stuff,
right? Yeah. People don't really understand. Like, you know, 90% of doing comedy is writing and rehearsing, literally saying the same things over and over. And I mean, some people are a little bit more free form and you can have fun and be in the moment and stuff, but you got to know your material. How else are you going to learn it if you don't say it a bunch of times? You know, you're not going to just remember it just because you wrote it down one time. Then you go on stage and the whole world it's a different world on stage. You know, if you've been on stage, you know, like you get a little bit nervous and all that, but yeah, I mean, some of the most, it's the drudgery, man. It's the drudgery of it that makes it what it is. And I love that War of Art so much by Stephen Pressfield, where he talks about resistance, like facing the resistance and going toward the resistance. Like that's the way that you need to do. It's like I'm saying, like if I would have learned better about marketing earlier, right, I would be in a different place now, right? Like if I would understand.
I mean, they're changing the algorithms every fucking 10 days.
Well, yes. Yeah. And that's a good point too. And that's always going to change and always going to be super frustrating. Like they change the way the ads are set up and how they distribute and how the impressions are made and all these things. I mean, I just went and set up this whole thing for your phone so that you get a notification whenever one of our people leaves and they're on the way to the house. You get a, clock in notification, clock out notification to the phone, right? And then
turn it all off.
I set all that. I set all that up, right? And then all of a sudden, hey, you got to register your toll-free number and go through these processes. Well, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'll get a non-toll-free number. So I get a non-toll-free number. Well, guess what? It's got to go into the registry, and it's all this, it's just all this extra stuff that you don't foresee. And you put this whole system together that getting a text message is integrated in, right? Like that getting an automated text message when your CRM does X, right? Like then you get a text message or whatever, right? And you set all that up. And then all of a sudden, one little thing changes, one little tiny thing in this entire mousetrap of things that you've set up. And you have to figure out that little problem, right? And so systems are great. But also, goodness gracious, when you put a bunch of things together, there's just so many possibilities and potentials for some little thing to go wrong. And then you got to figure that out. And it can be maddening at times. I think overall it's totally worth it. But, it's just frustrating at times and in moments when you do all of this work and get this whole thing set up. And then this one little pebble, this one stick in the spoke, and you're like, but I mean, I don't know. I say all that to say, like, whatever it is that you're doing, like you got to know, like in understand that the things that you're going to do does not equal what you see somebody, on stage getting an award or whatever, being recognized. Like that's, private victory precedes public victory.
Ultimately is you got to be doing this shit for yourself and not for the glory. and you know, ultimately your skill set moves to the top through repetition, right? And you know, but if you're doing those things because you want to be doing them, it changes the perspective, because now you're not, you know, doing penance. You're doing the things that say, hey, I want to be a rock star, or I want to be a movie star, or I want to be these things. And you know, it's not the goal. It really is the process. It's the journey. And uh and that's, you know, and that's why a lot of people don't make it, because they realize, you know, and for me, it's, you know, for instance, for comedy, right? It's like I fucking can command a room and make people laugh all goddamn day. But the moment that I'm looking for people's approval and standing on a stage, I care less, right? And so like I don't have the the drive to carry through on that whim, right? It's like, yeah, I would love to just go up there and kill it like George Carlin. It'd be fuck sure would be great, but I definitely don't have what it takes to do the work that George Carlin did to get to that moment, right?
He did a lot of work too.
You know, and so it really is. Um, so you got to be honest with yourself, and you know.
Yeah, things are hard. You know, it's like I am naive and I'll look at something and I'll be like, oh, I could do that. It's easy, right? Look, people are doing it, so I can do it. And that's not untrue. It's not a bad thing to have confidence and know that you could do something. But I think what it's funny about it is as you get into that world, you're like, oh, you know, you're like, hey, there's a lot more to this than I actually thought there was. You know, I've got to learn this thing. I've got to learn how to do this. I've got to figure out this person, you know, people have thought about all these things before. Yeah, there's just, it starts to unravel into so many other skills. Those skills are good though, because they're going to translate over to other things. It's like you're saying, we're taught to think, oh, stockbroker, oh, lawyer, oh, you know, but it's like, no, the more coverage you can have, the more that you can understand things and the more skills that you can acquire and learn and languages that you can speak. And
well, 200 years ago, every human being knew everything they needed to know how to survive in a situation, right? They knew how to like do the things, and you know, especially tribal people. But like now is, you know, we've outsourced all of our extra knowledge in place of money. Well, I could just pay this person to do that. I can pay this person to do that. So we outsource everything, but we're outsourcing our autonomy, right? And so it's like, and that's why, you know, a career, unless you got a really good career that's literally going to take care of you, it's really just kind of you know, it's kind of a trap, because you're literally compartmentalizing your capacity and operating on 1% of your total bandwidth by focusing on just one thing.
yeah,
and no one, you know, and that's the thing with the artist, right? It's like you don't really get the help, the professional help, until after you've done all the hard work.
it's exactly right.
By the time you learn marketing, you won't need to do it no more.
That's how it's 100% how it works. As soon as you can afford Cristal in the club, then they give it to you. You know, it's or whatever it is. It's so much like that. It's so funny. But yeah, it's like I remember doing music and all of that, and you'd hear that oh, well, once you guys have enough of a following yourselves, then you can get signed. Oh, so you mean we can build our own following and then go into debt?
Yeah.
Great. Let's sign me up. You know,
signing you up is just, you're basically just getting a big loan from a corporation that's going to do all the marketing for you. Right.
Right.
Like, and that's, you know,
yeah, they'll do it less effectively probably than you will by that time, because you've built a voice and a connection with your audience that loves you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and that's why doing the work is so important, because actually by the time you learn all that shit, you can make the decision if that's how you want to spend your time or not.
right.
Because ultimately, that's the thing, is like, people don't want money. They want the freedom that money brings. Right. And you know, and we'll give away a lot of our time trying to get to that spot.
True.
But you know, nothing's more free than when you're creating in the moment and you don't even know what the fuck time is.
Yeah, that's the best. That's what well, I mean, if you could just do whatever you wanted to all day, you study jujitsu for like an hour in the morning or whatever, and then have a tea on the pad. I mean, you could just, the sky's the limit, right? Like you learn classical piano or good something. I don't know. You could do like all those things and have the time. So yeah, you do want to have the time, the free time. And it is less about the money and it's more about the ability to live life and the lifestyle that you choose and the way that you want to be spending that time. But yeah, we do often, and I'm doing it now, spend a lot of time building something that hopefully later will give us more free time. So like right now, I don't have a whole lot, but I'm hopeful that because I don't have a whole lot now that I will have.
Well, I mean, hope is not a plan, so I would get rid of that word altogether.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's definitely the plan. I mean, but anything can happen, bro. Like I've seen shit just tank. Anything can happen. So it is what it is.
I had in 2004, I had a business where we sold, we invented our own lighters or our own vending machine to vend lighters because nobody had a lighter vending machine. And we put advertising for the bars and nightclubs on the lighters where we were selling the vending machines. It was a really good business plan. And so much so that I had advisors working for free because they believed in what I was doing. And then they fucking killed smoking in bars and nightclubs. Right. And so it's like one decision.
Right.
Can change everything, immediately forever. 100%. And so it's like, but it's like the ins and outs of that business and building that business taught me more than any degree would have taught me, or going to college or whatever. I mean, I literally was manufacturing, distribution, retail, and labor management, all these things, all these different facets of that. But ultimately, and again too, so that business failed. And it brought me to what I really wanted to be doing, which is making movies. Right. And so
right.
Like, the universe is like, hey man, you don't drink, you don't smoke. What the fuck you selling cigarette lighters for? I'm going to take this away from you.
Yeah. I mean, if it works out great, if it doesn't, even better, like that's the good part. That's why it's okay. No matter what happens, freedom from that, but you can spend your time, trying to wisely build something and hopefully it works out. It's the same thing. Like in 2020, right? Like I lost an entire business. I lost a business that would have been a 6-figure business easy that year, who even knows? I mean, cause that shit shut down in April, bro. So, but anyway, but yeah, I mean, it happens. That was just the way it was, but that set us on a different path. And ultimately things have worked out in a way where I've positioned myself where if something like that should happen again, then I won't be in nearly as much trouble. I won't completely lose my ass. I've got a little bit of a buffer, and I think it's wise how we positioned ourselves because we can still do the other thing, but we're not completely reliant on it. So,
the technique that comes into mind right now, and it's been on my mind a lot lately, is the transurfing where Vadam's talking positively about all the things he dislikes. Right? It's like, oh, another physics test, awesome, right? And so it's like
the vaudeville.
That's really what you have to put on that thick skin for all of these things, and
you do,
and welcome them, and that same celebratory thing as if it was something you fucking loved. And the more that you can higher that vibration in that moment, you're literally changing. What do they call it? Lifelines?
Life tracks, I think.
Life tracks or lifelines or
whatever.
On a different path or whatever.
No, it's true. It makes a huge difference because like if you react poorly and you start freaking out, then you get mad, and then you could just see that comedy of errors play out as a result of overreacting negatively to a situation. Like who knows what could happen as a result of that. Whereas if you're just like, well, okay, cool, awesome, I just lost that show. Well, who knows what could happen as a result of losing one client but that might lead to a bigger client or
Yeah, you don't know. All
a
you do
better
is
idea. It will.
we're probability machines, right? It's like our ego is just a probability machine that's making all these calculations to basically keep our meat bag alive, right?
Right.
And so it's just trying to like make sure that we don't fucking die all the time, and we take it too serious, and we don't realize we have control over it, right? Because you just get into habitual patterns of response and things like that. But you know, embracing the struggle, and that's a lot of things I've seen lately. Is like uh, this, like I guess a lot of like struggle and trauma comparison. It's like everybody's struggle is their struggle, regardless of how much it seems like a struggle to you,
Right.
and it's an honor in that. And everybody, nobody has a fucking easy button. I still don't know. I've never met anybody that's got a fucking easy button. It's like we're all fucking living it, and we're all doing it, and finding whatever coping mechanisms and techniques are going to help you navigate this just crazy world that everybody seems to think is just so finalized. They're still coming up with new shit every fucking day, right? But like, if you're not creating, then you just think it's a world for consumption. You don't realize that you're consuming everyone else's creations. But shit.
Yep. Yep. That's true. It's crazy though once you get out there and see how many other people are doing it. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how many skills are required in order to do what looks like one skill.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you're saying, if you really watch somebody who's really good, it looks like they're just magic. It looks easy, but that's because they're so good at it that they've made it look easy.
And that's what magic is. It's hard. It's creation. It's just controlling of energy, right? And so, in the case of like the star athlete, they put all their focus, all their emotion, all their imagination into this thing, and now they're creating, and it looks like magic. It looks easy, right? And it's like, and that's what they're doing. They're literally, and that's the same thing with even something as boring as a fucking business plan. It's still magic at its most whittled down form, or its lowest common denominator. All they're doing is, you write a business plan. All you're doing is evoking and imagining what you expect this thing to be like, and you go through it for 6 months over and over and over and over and over and over again, and then you got to adopt that plan. But ultimately, it's hermeticism. But they told you it's a business plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think outer intention, even from my perspective, it works even better than that as a format. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're just meeting people in the middle. You're just providing things that people need, and if you can figure out a way to do that, then you're going to absolutely crush. You'll do great.
Yeah.
And you can. There's a lot to it, setting yourself apart and communicating well. But I mean, it's crazy to see the evolution or the learning curve of it, where it's like, if you look back and be like, oh man, I was really bad at that. And then you see people who are making those same mistakes, behind you. And it's pretty trippy as you start to pick up more and more knowledge. But I mean, that's the fun part too, is unraveling. And I think Jenny said it in the chat, where it's like, just try to make it fun. If you can game yourself a little bit, and you can make it amusing to do whatever that thing is, somehow make it a game or whatever.
Fun is the ultimate. Like, that's how you really get in the zone.
Yeah.
It's how you get in the zone is you're surrendering in the moment, and you're forgetting about all the things that could fucking stir up your mind, and you're focusing on one thing, and you're really tapping into source creation energy, right? And that's and that's why a lot of artists get stuck in that thing, because they hit that euphoria in those moments. But it's like, art really is more. It ain't art and business. It ain't art sphere and business sphere. Art sphere. Business is in that sphere, right? And it's like, but again, it's like our perception of what success is in a mainstream forum. We don't see all the hard work ever. We just see the the end game. and we're disconnected from it. It's the same thing with like our food supply, right? It's like I ain't slaughtered no fucking cow. Well, I've eaten beef for a while, right? It's like you're separated from the reality of what these things are, and
Sure.
the more you're disconnected in any situation, the more that there's going to be a lot of illusions and things to get around, right? And and that's entrepreneurism is not a career. It is literally a constant skill building. It's
It
all you're
is.
doing. So if you're done with marketing, well, now it's time for leadership. Oh, you're done with leadership, well, now it's done. It's time for strategy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're done with strategy, well, now it's time for production. Oh, now it's time for systems, right? It's just like it is a constant thing, and that's why people have jobs, because literally people who these entrepreneurs create jobs that they don't want to do no more. Like startups or the one man band. And they're like, well, I made enough money now to have somebody else do this bullshit that I don't like doing.
Right.
But yeah, embracing the process is really, no process. If it's part of what you do, then it's part of it, and it's not something outside of it. And it ain't comedy and then rehearsal, or it isn't.
Right.
Writing. It's like one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm doing pitch school. Right? Is I go once a week and in a safe environment with other filmmakers, and we're pitching our stories as if there's a role play in it, as if there's executives in the room.
Sure.
And we're all making mistakes and we're all fucking fumbling through it. I'm trying to understand it, but that isn't not writing. That's part of being a screenwriter. That's just another, and it isn't separate from it. And
right.
That was like, one of the harder things, like when I first started getting into this, like, oh man, I've been writing for fucking 2 years and now I have to pitch this shit. Well, no, I've been writing for 2 years and pitching is part of it. And it's not separate from it.
Right? It really, that's what you'll start to learn. Yeah, that's true.
None of it's separated. It's all part of the thing, and it's all part of your human experience, right? What, you're gonna fucking just skip the human experience of what it means to struggle and fucking work for something and just have it, right? It's like it's just not. What's the purpose of being alive if you're just gonna be handed? And this is and I think it was Alan Watts that talked about it. If you were creator, source, God, whatever word you want to put on it, and you could build and create whatever you want. Well, after you've saved every fucking princess and slayed every dragon and like climbed every mountain and won every like journey, what are you going to do? Well, then you find us right here, right now, having this conversation, because the entity needed to forget itself, right? It's like it already knew what was going to happen. It's like watching the same fucking movie 100 times. If you know what's going to happen, why are you going to watch it? Right? And so it needed to create something, a space where it didn't know itself. And that's what we're experiencing right now. But we're all tapped into that energy, if you can find it and find it within yourself and find it within nature. And it always goes back to embrace the process.
Be here now. Be here meow. Be here meow.
Right, like meow.
Right, meow, meow. Yeah, man, 100%. And I'm excited. I'm excited to go and hang out in Ohio at this.
Yeah.
thing. People out there, if y'all are in the Ohio area, hit us up and come and hang out at this cool expo with some art. And I think there's going to be some like Native American dancing and stuff. And there's going to be some pottery going on and other interesting vendors. I mean, if Chancey said it's our people, then it's going to be cool. And we're going to be there. And I'm down to perform and do some stuff. We'll definitely have a psychedelic spaceship, aka Mantrayana, in the midst, and be hopping all over the place. Tell everybody again where you're going to go for this first leg here.
Okay, so April 14th and 15th, we're going to be at the Pike County Fairgrounds at Piketon, Ohio, for the Awakening Expo. April 20th to the 23rd, we'll be at the Backwoods Festival in Ozark, Arkansas. And then Spoon Moon Women's Fitness Center in Fayetteville, Arkansas, the following weekend. I think it's the 28th. And then Cinco de Mayo, we have May 5th through the 7th. We have Sawfest in New Brockton, Alabama, at the Bama Salimo Water Park, Sawfest. And then Memorial Day weekend, we got Chillicothe, Illinois, Summer Camp Music Festival. And then Sonic Bloom Music Festival, I believe that is the 15th through the 18th. And then Electric Forest, Sonic Bloom's in Rye, Colorado. And then Electric Forest in Rothbury, Michigan. And that's the weekend of the 23rd through the 26th for Electric Forest. And that's pretty much, the gonging aspect. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to leave room to work on my other projects and not get trapped into the it's like it's so addicting too. Like you go into a festival and 3 to 5,000 people do it, but out of those 5,000 people, 50 to 100 of them will have life-changing experiences. Like you really get down into those moments. It's addictive because you help somebody really find a piece of themselves, and that's so fulfilling in a way that is really undescribable. And but it's easy for me to get caught up in that feel good moment, not working on my other projects because the portal, so a lot of people see me and they only know me through that. So like, hey, gong guy, right? But I'm so many other things besides a gonger, and
sure,
it's so easy to get caught doing 20 shows a year, and then that was for 10 years. I was 20 shows a year, snowboard all winter, rinse repeat, and but I got other projects that I want to work on, and I got to make room for them. So. Just sticking to our main things, and maybe do a few more yoga studios or things like the Awakening Expo, get some travel in, and but for the most part, I really just got to hunker down and finish these 2 screenplays and continue working on the pitching.
Yeah,
get into really. Like there's also a pitching class or like a pitching tank where you actually pitch executives, right? And they help you critique, and so getting to that next step is a big deal for me. I want to be able to be in the room with the person that would be a decision maker, telling me where I'm going wrong with my expression. Because you're trying to pitch a 120-minute movie in 5 minutes to people that have heard 40 other pitches that day. Right. And so they might Hollywood buys 1,000 movies a year, but only makes 100. How many fucking bitches do you think they heard? Right. Like,
yeah.
That's, so
it's a lot.
You have to be, you have to be able to communicate all the things that they want to know, because every movie's the fucking same, but different. Right. It's just only one story it's ever told. They want to know a whole bunch of other stuff besides what you think they want to know as a writer, right? And so I'm really trying to hone that in and get comfortable in that uncomfortable environment of, being in the spotlight and having, being on a timer.
Word. I hear that. Word. Well, everybody needs to experience the spaceship. So if you're going to any of those places, you're going to be near those places. Think about hooking up with the Admiral. Hit us up too if you're hanging out. You got a yoga studio or want to do a group thing. There's definitely things in the works. I've definitely talked to Joe Roop about doing some events and stuff, and I think that's something that will eventually happen. And we just got to keep pumping it and priming it,
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody just appreciate you all for hanging out. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to say Sonic Portal on Instagram is how you get a hold of me. If you have any questions. We have actually Sawfest tickets for sale and Sonic Bloom tickets for sale. So Sawfest is in Brockton, Alabama, and Sonic Blooms in Rye, Colorado. So if you want to support our spaceship and go participate in the festival, that would be awesome. Contact me at Sonic Portal at Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you need anything, reach out to me or holler at us at the Telegram. You know, we're bopping around. I can definitely put you guys in touch with James, no problem. And I just want to say thanks everybody so very much for hanging out with us tonight, kicking it, streaming. I got a really cool episode coming out next week with Tom Palladino talking about scalar energy. His work is very fascinating. We talk a lot about it. Interesting guy. That's coming out next week. And then I'll be live again here pretty soon. I think maybe the weekend after that. And if not, I'm talking to I think his name is David Lawrence. Hopefully I didn't mess that up, but he's written a book about free will, and that's also very fascinating, the stuff that he talks about in there. He takes a different stance than like the old Sam Harris or what have you. So that'll be a good one. Thank you all so much. Thank you. And we appreciate you all. Like I said, bluecollarmystics.org. And we got the Telegram chat, Facebook group. Telegram's a little bit more active, and the Dream Coven is still on and popping. So if you get into the Blue Collar Mystics Telegram group, just say, hey, we want to learn about this Dream Searcher thing. We can make that happen too. We just finished book 2 of this book, and it surprisingly has led us to other things, new things to learn. Shocker, everybody. But we have learned a lot. It's been really cool. And we appreciate you guys. Y'all are amazing. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Come see us in Ohio. Come see us in Alabama. Okay, that doesn't.
Yeah.
The place in Alabama is actually really cool. The water park. It's like it's really.
It's a good venue.
It's a cool venue. It's a cool place. I think it's going to be cool up in Pikerton as well. And just stoked to be able to be a part of that and meet some new people. So much love, many blessings. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.